All right, well, still, I think we're live.
You're live.
And today, I think we have something genuinely exciting to show because it's something we've been working at for a long time. We just want to give a brief overview of what it is. And it's, of course, plugins and marketplace. So we'll do a bit of demoing. This is what it is. This is how it works. And of course, we'll also dive in a bit on how maybe you can create a plugin that we add to the marketplace, or if you just want a new type of integration to your tenant and your UI, you can of course do that.
Yeah.
So I think without further ado, we'll just dive right in because we got some stuff to cover.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So once again, we're inside of Crystallize. We've extended what we've called apps before into apps and plugins. Instead of just a blank screen, now there are some banners, and these are three plugins that we've created that we are the author of. So we have, of course, some AI assistant. We've talked about Flare before. Now we're also splitting Flare into multiple different plugins that you can install right into your tenant and your UI. So this is what I'll showcase, the Flare Assist. And as you can see, you get presented with a regular App Store Marketplace page where it tells a bit about what it is, features, installation requirements, but also about the author. Because at this stage, we at Crystallize, we will vet all plugins coming in first. And of course, we will author a lot of plugins as well that you can install. Without further ado, let's just install it, accept some terms, and that is it. And then you'll see it start loading here. So what I actually did install now is just a Flare Assistant. And as you can see, it's integrated as a part of the UI. It can also read the current context. There's not much for it here. But if I go into the catalog, for example, you can see, okay, we're at a catalog as context. We can drill down even further. We can say, okay, inside of, let's just do the regular products, auto furniture. You can see, okay, we're inside a catalog product and the item ID. So now it has all the context of this item ID. But what I really want to show here is if you just do like this and we say, for those of you who have been seeing this before, you know we have some vinyls in here. Inside of entertainment, we have around 5,000 vinyls that we imported at some point of time. And what if I say, could you find all Metallica vinyls for me? So of course it's going to do its job. This is token based. We have our own token inside of Crystallize. So if you want access to this, just tell us and we'll give you some tokens to try it out. But what it will do is analyze everything that I have inside the tenant. It will come with the suggestions. It will analyze the data itself. It will even give me some widgets, some artifacts to show what's up. But even cooler maybe is that it will also integrate into a new view, which we just called Lightbox, which basically lets you open the results from the AI. And of course, this is just one story out of many, because what we are announcing today is that we have a plugin system and we have a marketplace, and this is just one use case. So with that, Vasil, I think it's maybe even time for you to know, okay, this is one case, but how do we build another? What other use cases?
Yeah, let's make it a little bit more nerdy, as we say, and to look at it how really this works all together, right? Because this is, I think, quite exciting to have two different systems, make them work together. I think there is some beauty behind it, right?
There is, of course.
Yeah.
Let's dive into it, and we'll talk a bit about the philosophy and what you can do with it. Of course, we are in the cradle. It's just being launched. So the general idea about plugins is that, okay, we define a lot of entry points where you can either have just a button some inline attributes, an inline frame connected to a different system all over the UI. So you do you, like we always say, you integrate your stories, your functionality into the UI.
Yeah, that's kind of putting it nicely, like what is plugin. And really, like when we look at the plugin in a nutshell, it's just an application that runs inside an iframe that is rendered in Crystallize. That's pretty much the whole concept of the plugins, right? Like in a nutshell, very high level. So you build your application, we render it inside iframe, so it's scoped, it's isolated, right? We provide some means that the Crystallize main app can communicate with the plugin, and the plugin can communicate back to the Crystallize app UI. And all of that I'm going to show you here, and how to build actually your first plugin. And when we started developing the plugins, we thought, I think it's very important. Actually, we enable developers to easily jump and start creating their own plugins, because otherwise it could be a bit more complicated to do the whole setup on your own. So when you start with plugins, what's the first thing that you should do? I mean, you just heard about plugins, right? From someplace, Crystallize plugins. How can we do that? The simplest way is you go to the crystallize.com website, you go developers, getting started, Command K, because we like Command K, right? You write plugins, you click it, and here you get pretty much the gist of it, how it works, what it does, how you can set it up, what is expected from the plugin, all the information, like the configuration when we install it, a lot of information over here. And you may say, like, yeah, this feels like a lot to read, but in the end, you can always point your AI agent to this page, say, read how the plugins work in Crystallize, and let's start together. So this is a good starting point, just to give you some understanding of what are the Crystallize plugins. But let's dive a little bit kind of further and see how actually we can start from something that is already made, and then we can build on top of it. To do that, we're going to use the Crystallize CLI. This is a open source repository, as you can see, so everybody can contribute, read the code, nothing really to hide here. And to install the Crystallize CLI, you can just copy this command, run it in your terminal, and then you're going to have it. Why I'm saying about the Crystallize CLI? Because we have something there that's going to help you to start with the plugins. So let's look at it. Over here, if I do Crystallize and I do --help, so you see that there are a bunch of commands here that can help you to start with mass operations, working with tokens, images, files. But at the bottom here as well, you see that we have plugins as well. So let's use that one. So you say Crystallize plugin, and then we can do --help again if you want to go further. What are our options there? We have create, we have a keygen, encrypted secrets, decrypt payload, a few things, commands that we can already use. But let's go with the create, right? So plugin, create, and let's create one that is called super product. Something that's going to be, so we're going to develop a plugin in Crystallize that will be analyzing product, giving suggestions of similar products or whatsoever, right? So name it super product, and we're going to run this command. Okay, so here we are presented with a few options, or as we call them, few skeletons or examples that you can use to kind of build your plugin from, right? So you don't start completely from scratch. And the first one is really the kind of the pure skeleton. That has, for example, JS React components. It has JS API client hooked, I wanted to say. It has the plugin signal library. I'm going to show you a little bit later, where we use to communicate with the main app back and forth, right? So it has a few nice things built in. It has a Vite server ready to use, and it's built on top of Hono. Hono is this backend server that is used, where you can build your applications. It exposes the server with different endpoints, and then you render your HTML, your React code, actually, in fact, with different islands, which is dynamic. I mean, if you never heard about it, don't worry. I'm sure Claude knows about it very well and can help you there. So you can really start with it easily. The good part is that when you build plugins we are not locking anyone to use Hono, right? You can use Next.js, you can use Angular. Was it called Angular? Angular, or whatever you want to think of it, right? Vue.js, I don't know. You do you, as we say.
And in general, like we always say, it's just signals going back and forth. So where the signal goes, that's up to you. But this is a starting point. I use it all the time. I never touched Hono before creating a plugin. It just works well. It's just a skeleton.
Exactly. So let's select the first one. The other two are two examples that you can also look at it when they get installed. You're gonna take a look at the source code if you want, but let's use the kind of the basic skeleton here. So plugin name, we're gonna do super product. Oh, here. So the plugin identifier, this is kind of interesting, and it's important to mention that the plugin identifier needs to be reverse DNS, reverse DNS, kind of in this format, right? As you can see here, for example, we have com.example and then the name of the app, which is super product. It could be anything, up to you, as long as it's reverse DNS. I think this will be good and it will be accepted. Otherwise, it's going to throw an error. So I will take just what I'm given here. The author, I'll put my name, use the seal. Plugin URL, for now we don't know it, right? We're still in a development, so I'll use just what is standard over here. And what is important for plugins to make them work is that we need to provide a pair of key and private, public and private key pair, so we can use to encrypt data. And the public key is a public key, right? So we use the public key to encrypt the data, and on your side, on your server, use your private key to decrypt the data. So this way we make sure that whatever is exchanged between the app and your plugin can be read only by you. So this is kind of a standard thing, very important. I would just say generate a public-private key pair with the default configuration. And now the skeleton will run behind the scene. It will pull the code for the skeleton. It will install the dependencies, right? There are a few things that needs to be done because, as I said, this skeleton comes with pre-baked libraries for you to ready to use, like GS API clients, plugin signal. I'll show them in a second now when the skeleton is done with the installation part.
Cool. Important thing that Olaf is mentioning here in the comments as well is that the Hono syntax is very familiar to Express, which is a good point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and in the end, it's used React under the hood, right? So it's not something really completely strange or new for people.
No, cool. It's just a choice.
Exactly. Cool. So now we have our setup, the skeleton. So let's look at it and see what is inside, really. So I will navigate to super product. And here I can do, which one I should do first? Okay, let's start with the basics. npm run dev, right? I'll just run the command, and boom! All of a sudden I have a localhost running over here. I'll copy it and I will navigate to it. And we have our Crystallize plugin skeleton. And already see this is the home page of the plugin. It renders, it works. So this is good. So let's dive in a little bit in the code. I think this is going to be more fun. What should I do? Okay, I'll start a new tab over here. This is going to be, just go with the code. Cool, I chose this folder. Okay, and then I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So this is the Hono app. What is interesting here, maybe a few files I'm going to show you. So when we render, we start with the source, right? So that's how the Hono works. And over here, we have the source code, right? Then we go into the app that renders. And over here, this is the server part. And we have a few predefined routes, as you can see. For example, here we have the tenant identifier, and then we render the UI app. And when you look at it inside, we have get or post and then /widget. And this is the widget page over here. So that means if I go over here and I navigate to, let's say, Furnitud widget, you're going to get to see that I'm inside Furnitud tenant, right? So this the convention for the plugin is that the tenant identifier is kind of prepended, and then we have our our target. I will show that later how we set up, but this is where our plugin really renders on 10 identifier / something, and in this case is widget. So this is our plugin, and from here, what else I can show you? So kind of the vid part is very interesting, but not mandatory, right, for people to understand, because when the plugin renders first, it renders, we are calling a post endpoint. Why we're doing that? Because all the data is set in a body payload, right? So it's not visible in the browser. If somebody kind of middleman cannot read the request to the plugin, so we are sending it in a post request, but then we need to return something into a get, so the browser can render it. And this is the magic that is done here with vid. Of course, there are different ways that this can be done, but all of this is set for you, so you don't need to really worry about it. We have this configuration part here where we can set the context, for example. That's what Diederik showed you earlier, that when he moved to different pages, we were getting the context, or the entity context, as we say. And I'm going to show that how we can also display the entity context in our app. And then maybe if we take a look quickly on package.json over here, as I said, we have GS API client. So this is the library that's going to enable you to easily make requests against Crystallize. It's going to take a bearer token that's the plugin will receive from Crystallize, and then you can use that bearer token to make requests to the core API, for example. And all of this is kind of very much easily done with GS API client. So you can just do it and use it. The plugin signal over here, this is another library that I wanted to show you. Let me see, where was it? Over here. So this is a package as well on NPM that you can install. And the plugin signal is this library that is used to make the communication between the main app and the plugin. And as I said, the plugin is rendered in an iframe. So what is this really about? Is just posting messages between Crystallize main app and your plugin back to Crystallize.
Just an example was when I opened the Lightbox in example, the nerdy view in Crystallize, that was the signal. I sent the grid coordinates and the IDs of the findings from the AI agent to Crystallize again. And then, okay, I know what to do because I'm a Lightbox. And the whole idea is that using app signals, you can control the UI without interactions from the users on our interface, but in your app or plugin.
Yeah. True. And kind of the idea of the plugin signal here is that it removes that complexity of kind of setting the channel, and also the data that is passed between the app and the plugin. It's validated with Zot, right, in runtime as well. So you can look at here the schema and all the methods that the library exposes, and this is a live document, right? Every time when there is a need, we can add something new, or if you feel like something is missing, just let us know. We can add that plugin. But pretty much all of this tells how the communication is done. The child is the plugin, parent is the main app, and this kind of gives you the idea of where the communication goes when we're calling one of these. With some examples, and everything is here. So this is also something that if you're lazy reading it, just throw it to Claude, and Claude will figure out how to do it. Cool. So I'm not going to go further into the skeleton. It's there. As I said, it works. What I'm going to do behind the scene, because while I'm kind of talking about, let me start Claude here, and I'm going to say, yes, I trust this, use the MC. So what I want to do, I want to display this entity context that Diederik mentioned earlier. So let's see if Claude can figure that out. So I'm going to render my app, my plugin, to be more concrete, my plugin in Crystallize. So please use the plugin signal library to render the entity context on the widget page. So when I navigate in Crystallize, I can see where I am. Okay, I'll let Claude work. I will put the auto mode on, and then you'll continue. Cool. So this is the development part. And as I said, from here, you have the freedom to really work on it. You have the local host, you can develop, you can simulate the entity context that, let's say you are in a catalog, in an item with ID something, and then you can work from here and develop your plugin. But now the more interesting part is that how we're going to render our plugin inside Crystallize, so actually we can see in real how things work together, right? And this is the more interesting part, I would say. Cool. To do that, we need a few things, maybe one. And here I'm going to use a library which is called Portless. I don't know if you heard about it or not, but this is one of this reverse HTTP server port that's instead of running on localhost, we're going to run on HTTPS localhost, right? The whole idea is that the app needs to be served from the HTTPS because Crystallize is served from HTTPS, so they need to be on the same protocol. So here you can also use ngrok, you can use a lot of different options, but I found this one to be very easy to use, and that's why I'm using it, Portless. So what we need to do here, we will go back in the terminal, and instead of running npm run dev, we just run Portless. Oops, not that, of course. That wasn't expected. Oops, Portless. Cool. And what Portless gives us is this gives us this URL. So if I copy this and if I open it in the browser, you see my skeleton renders again. And if I put here tenant widget again, you see that renders the widget route on that tenant. Cool. So we have this. So now let's go and install this plugin in Crystallize. How we can do that, right? Here I have my test tenant in production that I want to use, and I want to install my plugin. So what is interesting about it? When you're creating plugins, let's put it that way, not installing, when you're creating or adding plugins to Crystallize, they are added on your own user, which means that if you navigate between different tenants, you're going to see the plugins that you created. But when you install a plugin, you install the plugin on a tenant. That means if I install a plugin on this tenant and I navigate to a different tenant, I'm not going to see it because the plugin is not installed on a different tenant, right? But I'm going to see the plugins that I created. So what I'm talking about here, if you go to the settings, we have this kind of relatively new section, which is called apps and plugins, right? And if I click on it, here I can create my apps and my plugins. Kind of this is the combined planes for both, because more or less they have some similarities, but also in a way they are very different. So,
not to break your flow, Vasil, but this also might be a good place to explain what the difference is. Because an app is something we've had for a long time, which is basically just a URL to your instance. This is per tenant. It's isolated down to this tenant, and it renders an iframe under the apps and marketplace route that we have. Like you see here. Now this was that route didn't work. While a plugin is something that you install on a tenant, so which means that okay, the plugin is there, but what we will talk about later is what we call entry points. Okay, where is this plugin rendered? How do I communicate? How do I interact with this plugin? What I showed was just a sidebar, a static sidebar, and that's just one out of many entry points. It could be a button in the main toolbar. It could be an inline iframe right into the item. That's up to the developers to define.
Yeah. True. So let's see now how we can actually add the plugin, right? How we can create it in Crystallize. To do that, we're going to go here on the add plugin. And what's the name? Is going to be super product identifier. So this is the identifier that I told you in the beginning, that this needs to be the reverse DNS. And what we can do here, actually, we can navigate to the env. Is that going to be here? No, really. In our end file, we have the plugin identifier already here. So I can just copy it from my configuration. This is what you saw earlier, right? com.example superproduct name. I'll put my again. I can provide here a description. if you want, and this is the description that will tell you what is this plugin about. I will skip it for now, but I will provide an icon URL. And with this, I will create the plugin. So now the plugin is created in Crystallize. As I said, this plugin is created on your user, is not installed. You cannot really do much with it. But the most important thing that you can do actually is to add a revision. And a revision, think of it, this is the way that we can manipulate different versions of the plugin, right? When it evolves, when they're breaking changes, for example, we can release new version. The people then need to go through, again, installation process, submitting the configuration for the plugin, and then work with the new version. To add the revision, we do it from here. And the revision, there are a few required properties. Version is the first one, so I'll use, let's say, 010. Upstream URL. So this is the URL of your plugin. And actually, this is the place where we needed that HTTPS that I told you earlier, right? And I will just copy it from over here, right? So because this is my URL for the plugin during development. Of course, when you push this plugin somewhere on a real server, right, then you're going to have a different URL. Then you need to release a new revision with the correct version. So this is my upstream URL. Post installation, there is an endpoint which is called post installation. And if you look at here in the code, even you're going to get to see it. What is this endpoint? Is that every time after someone installs your plugin, this endpoint will be called, and then you're going to get some information like who installed the plugin, like what kind of information, configuration provided. So then you can act on it. You can save it or do whatever you want, right? So this is the one entry point. And then I think over here, where is it in the create UI? No, it's here. Yeah, it's in here. Yeah, I'm not spending time now to find it, but it's a predefined. You can also change it your way. You can provide whatever you want. The public key, I told you this is something that was created during the skeleton installation. So I have the public and the private key pair. I'll copy the public one and provide it over here. Configuration schema. So this is kind of the interesting part. So when somebody installs your plugin from the marketplace, let's say, you can ask the user to provide some information. Think of it like if this is a plugin that's going to be like a Slack integration, and then you need the Slack API key, for example. You can ask the user, hey, provide me your API key. Or it could be, give me your names, telephone number, whatever. It's kind of the information you need, right? And this is a standard configuration schema, which is this draft 2012-20 schema. It has this format, right? Now, this is at the top of the schema, type object, additional properties. You can provide what is required. And over here are all the properties that, for example, Stripe API key is a type string. Organization, it has title and kind of email, label, address. So this is, I think this is also documented in the page that I showed you earlier. So you can build this schema or ask Claude to do it for you. Just tell like what you need, what's the standard, and Claude will build the schema for you. And this is,
of course, the output of this is that on installation you get a manifest that you need to fill in on installation. Like in this case, fill in your company logo or something to that extent.
Yeah. And the good part is that in the UI, we will use your public key, we will encrypt this, and then we will send it to the API. So really on the server, there is no way for us to read what is in there, what your user provided, right? Only you have the private key, and you can then decrypt it and read what is in there. This is kind of important to mention, right? So we don't store any sensitive information that can be used in any way, because everything is encrypted. And here you can provide also like what are the secrets. You can say like the Stripe key is a secret, and this needs to match exactly. Like Stripe API key is a secret, and webhook signature secret is also a secret. So this way we are telling actually what needs to be encrypted. Cool. And then we're getting to the entry point. So this is what Didrik mentioned earlier, right? This is the part where you are telling us, Crystallize, where your plugin should render. And they're like, generally speaking, two options. Either your plugin is going to render like inline on the page. Think of it like you open the page and then your plugin appears somewhere. Or it could be open in a dialog. Let's say you click on an action button and we open a dialog and then your plugin gets inside. You do something and then you tell us, hey, close the dialog, then we close the dialog and then user continues from where they were. And for that, we have this placement, and the placement is really tells us where this plugin should appear. And we tried it to build in a kind of human readable format, right? For example, let's get catalog item split view inline. So the first part tells you like what's the entity, what's the main route, think of it, right? So this is gonna render in the catalog. This is gonna render for all the items, either document, folder, or a product, because item kind of encapsulates everything. Then it will render in a split view, right? So I'm gonna maybe show you that quickly over here. I go and I will change here to Fermitet. I'm sure it's okay. And then over here we have the split view. So this part will render the plugin, right? And then when, as you saw here, the item tells that's going to be on every page. For example, we have also dashboard home top card. Dashboard home top card means that the plugin will render on the dashboard home. This is page over here, this card. Instead of this area, you're going to see the plugin. So we tried to be kind of the placement to talk about itself as much as possible. We have layout sidebar right. So this is what Didrik showed you. Like the layout means that's going to be shown on all the pages, regardless where you're in the app. That's going to be always sidebar right. So look at it, and what I want to say here is that this is what we have to start with, right? We're going to build and add more, and I hope that you guys, when you start developing plugins, you come up with suggestions and just like, hey, you need placement here and placement there, and then we're going to add it, right, to enable you to work with it. Yeah.
And I will, on that point also, because what Olaf is asking, if you can have custom plugins, that is not, if I understand correctly, Olaf, that it's not published on the marketplace. And yes, of course. So adding stuff to a marketplace would be optional. We prefer if there's something that could be useful for others, that it can be on the marketplace. But until you've created a revision and, well, currently contacted us, it won't be on the marketplace at all. It will stay as a private plugin that is on your user, which you can install on different tenants.
Yeah, and what I'm going to show now actually is going to be a private plugin in a way, right? So the development mode of this is exactly building a private plugin to start with, and then when you're ready and you feel that this is something that can be beneficial for other people, then you can actually talk to us, and as Didrik said, we can enable it and put it on the marketplace so other people can use it as well. Cool. Going back to our super product plugin, I will put it in the catalog item split view inline, which means it will appear as a split view, so we can actually look at it, which is the product on the left, and then we can do something on the right in our plugin. Target URL, and this is exactly what I told you, that the skeleton renders on this /widget, right? Because the tenant identifier before that is hard-coded, so it's there always, but then which target this entry point should hit, and in our case it's just /widget. Label, sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not, because if you're rendering like a button that opens a dialog, then you need a label, but in this case I will just put it, and then I'm going to use the same icon that I had from before. I'll just put it here, and I will create the revision. Cool. So what I did so far, I created the plugin and I created a revision that can be installed, right? So now the installation part is a separate action that needs to be done. And as I said, this plugin is created on my user. So if I go to different tenants, I'm going to see it as it is, but the installation I'm going to do only on this tenant. So how we can install the plugin? Let's do that. And to install the plugin, at least currently, because this is a subject of something that eventually can change. But for now, we need to go to the apps and plugins here in the main sidebar. And from here, we can install private plugin, this option. If you click it, so as you can see, my super plugin already appeared because I have only one plugin that I can install. So it's appeared with the latest revision. And here is the configuration that eventually if this appears on the marketplace, this is the configuration that people need to fill in. And how it looks, I will show that quickly. So the configuration usually looks like in this format, right? This is just the fields that you requested and the information that people submitted. So you're going to get this configuration, and the encrypted secrets is what I told you earlier, that all the secrets we will encrypt with the public key and send them. So we never store them as a pure text. And the encrypted secrets, they're going to look like this. Stripe API key, because I thought this is my secret, and this is the value which is encrypted with the public key. I'm not going to do that, but kind of so you know actually what is this about. When that's done, I will hit install, and of course, before really installing the plugin, you need to agree with the terms and conditions for installing the private plugin. I think this is the standard procedure, so you just read it, and when you're ready, just accept. Okay, so my super product plugin appeared, as you can see here under installed plugins. It's private. This is the URL. So let's see how it looks, right? You remember that the placement that we put it was on the catalog split view inline. So I will go to the catalog, and I will hopefully grab something that I can. Okay, I don't have any. Okay, I have one. That's good. I'll grab this product, and from here I will go into split. And you see my super plugin already appeared here. So when I click on it, hooray, it renders. So hello, this is the name of identifier, right? And this over here is actually the entity context that I was telling you, that I told Claude actually over here. If you remember, I said, Claude, go at the entity context, kind of display it on the main page, and it did it, right? So for example, if here I go, I don't have a different language, what can I do? I can navigate to a different item. So you see here that this is the tenant identifier, this is the language. If I change the language, this will appear immediately. The entity is the catalog, item type is product, item ID is this. So if I navigate to this product over here, you see that already changed. Even this is the ID 277 F1B, already it's over here. And if I go back to the previous one, you see this one changed again. 5A, 5C. So this is the entity context that every time your plugin renders, it tells you that actually where you are in Crystallize. And I think this is really what you need to start from. Here it's just you. You do whatever you like. You have the entity context. You can send signals back and forth. Do whatever you feel you like to do with the plugin and work with it. I think this kind of proves that really what we did just really works. Which I think is amazing.
It definitely does. And of course, when you get to this stage, then it's business as usual. You consume the API, you talk with app signals to do stuff with Crystallize. There are different modes there as well. So if an entry point is, in example, next to the publish button up there, you can open a dialogue to do something, or over the title, as you see on Vasil's screen, you can add your own inline plugin. Mm-hmm. So and this is what we will say the starting point. Now we can install, create plugins and all of this. We're still making plugins ourselves, and I think it's quite fun. And like Vasil said, if there's any entry points that you've really been missing, I know that one on order is an example, a big one. That you can handle your payment gateway straight inside of the UI of Crystallize. So we do believe it unlocks new possibilities in terms of the app and our UI.
It is indeed. That kind of opens people to do the things that they are missing actually in Crystallize, or things that we cannot get to them right away. People can do it, and then eventually it could also become part of Crystallize. But if something you are missing, you can now do it yourself, and you have it.
Exactly. So on that bombshell, I think that's what we have to show today. Hopefully someone will show us something soon. That's what we hope.
Yeah, share it. Definitely.
Okay, thank you for listening in. See you in the next one. And if you would like to get notified, what you do, Vasil?
Like and subscribe.
Perfect. We nailed it. Okay, thanks, y'all. Bye.
Bye.